Hello, welcome to my channel everyone. Today I have a fun craft that I'm going to show you guys how to do, and it is making these bows. I've made a couple different versions here already just to show you the difference in size and difference in colors. And it's a super easy method that I'm really excited to show you guys, so let's get right to it. Okay, so the first things that you're going to need are a pair of scissors, some artistic wire if you want, otherwise you can purchase pipe cleaners, those will work just fine as well, and then any kind of ribbon. I particularly like the kind that has wire in it, just because it makes it a lot easier to work with, and while we're in the process of making the bow, if we squish it up a bit, at the end, this wire allows us to refluff the bow and make it pretty. Okay, so the method that I have to show you for making these bows is super simple. It's just going to take a few minutes. And basically, in order to start, we just kind of want to unravel a little bit of our ribbon here. And we're going to take one end of the ribbon and fold it over. And this is going to be our tail. And so it's really important that you fold this over for the length of the tail that you want. If you want a tail that's longer, you're going to fold it over a little bit more. But if you want one that's a bit shorter, you're going to fold it over about this distance here. And then I'm going to be folding mine over a short distance just because of the particular project that I'm working on. So I fold it over. And the next part is folding the rest of your ribbon over. We're basically just going to be folding the ribbon in rectangles and wrapping it around itself. So the way that you want to fold it, it just depends on the distance. I would do about 8 inches or so if you're looking for a standard bow with 2 loops. This bow that I made has 3 loops, and so that's probably what I'm going to do here again. So I'm probably going to want a little extra length. The more loops that you have, the more length you're going to want. It'll just make it easier to work with and make your bow a little more exaggerated. So I'm probably going to go about right here for my first one. And then we're going to wrap the fabric over our initial fold, and we're going to count our loops. So that's 1 when you get to the back. All the way to the back is 1 full loop. And then we're going to keep going. We're going to fold it over 3 times so that we can have 3 loops. Just get a little bit more ribbon out here. So we're going to fold it over 1 more time, all the way over. Once we get to the back of our initial loop, that's 2. We're going to do it again. The back of our initial loop is 3. If you lose count of how many loops you've done, it's really easy to count. You can just open this up and count. You can kind of pull them out a little bit and see you have 1, 2, and 3 loops. This side is going to be a little bit different because we do have our first fold in here, which is our tail, and we're going to end up pulling this out, so we don't want to count this as a loop. So we're going to count everything but that. So right now we have 1, 2, and 3. So we have an even number of loops on each side of our bow. So we are good to go to the next stage at this point. So what we're going to do is, this is our tail in here that we're going to end up pulling out. And so it's going to sit on our bow like this. And then we need to make another tail. So as you can see on the back of this, my ribbon happens to be one-sided. The pattern is only on one side, and so that's the side that I'm going to want to show on the tail like this. So in the back, I'm just going to do a little fold here, kind of diagonally, so that I make sure I'm angling the pattern the right way in the front. Once I've got that angle set, I'm just going to kind of measure where I want the tail, and I kind of want them to be the same length, right? So I'm going to say it's about right here, and I'm going to cut my ribbon right there while holding all my fabric because I don't want that to come undone. So I'm going to do about right here. Okay. Once we've cut our fabric, we are just going to pull the tails out a bit, and then we're going to pinch everything from the back, middle, and we're just going to pinch it all together like this to help us create that first bow. Once you've got it pinched the way that you want, you can use a pipe cleaner or wire, whatever you have to secure it in place. I've already cut off a piece of wire here, so I'm just going to wrap that around the front and tie it as tight as you can, or twist it as tight as you can. Making sure all your fabric is stuck together. Doesn't need to be very beautiful because we'll end up covering it in the end. But essentially we have a rough shape of a bow at this point. We have our tails sticking out and we have the two sides. So our next step is going to be to pull out each loop and kind of fluff it up to make it look a little prettier. So I always just pull from the bottom and the top, and I pull one to each side, and the middle will be my center loop. And then just kind of stick your fingers in there to help fluff it and give it shape. And then you're going to do the same thing to the other side. Just pull these out, just like this, and just fluff it up. This particular ribbon is pretty new, so it's still really stiff. Sorry about my dog. Okay. And you just want to play around with it till you get it to look pretty and nice. And if you decide, you know, oh, that's too big, I didn't want it that big, it's super easy to undo the wire, the pipe cleaner, whatever you secured it with, and to start fresh. Alright, once you have it looking kind of how you want it, the next step is to make the tails just a little prettier. I particularly like when we fold them over and we cut them down so that they're like this. So in order to do that, you just take your fabric and you fold it over, and then you take your pair of scissors and you just cut at an angle, just like this. That was the wrong way. Let me do that again. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I do that. Okay, and then you end up with something like this. You can do the same to the other side. You just fold it over. Oh, for gosh sakes. You might mess up a few times like that. Sometimes it's hard to figure out which way you're supposed to cut it. There we go. That looks better. And you may need to adjust if one tail is longer than the other, like mine. This one looks a little bit too long. So I'm going to just trim that down. You can just do this as many times as you need to. Just like that. And if that looks good, I might want to test it out on my sign. Make sure, you know, the tails are going to be a good length. They're not going to cover anything up. But if that looks good to me, then our next step is just to add a little extra touch. You can see on this bow, for example, I just added some fabric in the middle to cover up our seams. I think it just makes it look cleaner and nicer, and just makes it look a little more intricate. So it's super simple to do that. All you need is just an extra piece of fabric if you have that laying around. Otherwise, cut a little bit more off of your spool. And you just need to have enough to be able to tie a knot in the back. You can also just hot glue it together if you didn't cut enough. Whatever works best for you. And I'm just going to fold it over just like this, however wide I want it to be. And then the next step is just to lay it over the center of my bow. Just make sure everything's even. Just lay it over the center of my bow, and I'm just going to fasten it here in the back by tying a knot. Just like that. And so there you have it. You can go back, obviously, and refluff anything that you need to. You could add this bow to a gift. If you have any hanging in the back like this, feel free to trim it with your scissors. Otherwise, when you secure it to whatever you're securing it to, it will probably end up being covered up anyways. But I think this is a really beautiful bow, and as you saw, it was pretty easy. You can add it to decor signs, even a gift I think it would look really good on, a wreath. Really anything this bow would look great on. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And make sure you like and subscribe the video. Thank you, everyone.